Hello, everyone. Here's a little bit of a live stream about deep relationships, and my brother Abdul will join me to converse on this very important subject that touches all of us, probably in equal ways. So let's see what Abdul has to say on this. Abdul, invite. Here we are. Here it comes. We'll bring Abdul on the campus. Exciting times. The year is coming to a close. 2018 round the corner. Good evening, my brother Abdul. How are you doing?
I'm very well. How are you, Jason?
I'm doing extremely well. I had to quickly rush up to the room to get my gear on and change for
Mate,
my
there's no gear
pajamas
for
the whole day.
there's no gear for me. I'm in my hoodie and my hat.
Talk about like work from home and the kind of freedom, entrepreneurship, and all that kind of stuff. I was literally in pajamas all day today, and it's cool. Pajama productivity.
Oh yeah, I sit on Sundays are one of my favorite days because you can literally sit in your trackies and you can just be nice and comfortable, but you can get on with stuff. You have no distractions. You can just put your headphones in. You're not worried about you have to go out to a meeting or you have to do anything else. You can just sit there and plan and get on with it. So for me they're power Sundays.
Yeah, and it's like it's also quite like Sundays are quite meditative because everything is a lot more calm. I think like majority of the world is doing like Netflix and chill, and I'm doing like meditation. I'm chilling in my own way, but I'm meditating. I'm like reflecting on the week. I am doing things that need doing, but are like lower order of importance. Uh, than the things like during the weekday I can be meeting with people face
Hmm.
to face, building relationships, right? On Sundays when everyone's
Hmm.
kind of like switched off mentally, I'm switched in on those things that are doable when I don't need other people to be with me and so on. So I fully reflect on your thoughts on Sundays and yeah, the beauty of Sundays. I think like Sundays are anyway like spiritual days, even for like Christians and so on. So it's like
Hmm.
you can be spiritual on Sunday, irrespective of what your denomination is and whether you are religious or believe in any higher order beings and so on.
Oh yeah,
So
100%. And when you're like, for example, again, like I've learned with you or from you in a sense, is that balance of religion and life and balance of everything to create that flow that we live in. And so yeah, we have that balance of religion, and Sundays are very spiritual days because one, you can get to spend time with your family. Two, you can be very spiritual, and three, you can also get on with some work and prepare yourself for the week ahead. So that's like for me, that's a balanced day. When you can fit in three or four of these things in a day, and that for me is balance in other ways.
like technical question on Facebook Lives. Do you know if there's any ways in which I can bring another person in on this? Is it like a two people only, or is it like can you do more?
No, no, it's usually just a one, unless you've got the software. The certain softwares that allow you to do more, but from Facebook directly, you can only do one.
All right, so that's it. It's you and I. It's us bromancing, as Rick Miller says. I guess you bros are bromancing. There's no surprise to join in. You can join in via questions. So ask any questions. One of the first questions that Rick asked was, "How can I build something better when my brother hates everything about me?" Uh, well, this let's take this as a generic question actually, because like put it like this: it's often the case that your family, whether it's like Abdul and I calling each other brothers, right? And we're not like blood family, although I haven't done the genetic like tree and stuff, but it's often the case that like siblings believe about each other that they hate each other. And it's like whether it's like they're not sharing the toys. So I've got two children and they're like, Layla's playing with
Hmm.
Ernie and like he's not letting me play on what's it called, the Minecraft as much as I want to, or is like, he's not sharing with me. This kind of thing around kind of who is hating on each other and whatever. It's just like it's a never ending story of the world we live in, and it's your own personal perspective. If you think that someone else hates you, it's probably you that's an issue. And the first thing
Um,
to do is self-reflect, on yourself, and what is it that you're putting out that is working or not working. What do you think, Abdul?
and the funny thing was I created a video this last week on actually building a better relationship with family members in particular, because most people might know in my journey I never had a particular great relationship with my father, and that was damaging to my journey because I was held back by this thing that, oh, if it doesn't matter if the world believed in me but my parents could not believe in me. I couldn't really satisfy or feel happy until I had that relationship with my parents, because family is a huge part of our life, and whether we like it or not, having your parents has a direct effect on your journey as a business owner, or anyone that's ambitious. So for me, I did a number of things. I think first is not seeing that everything is an attack on you, and I think that's the first bit. When you realize that, actually, you know what? They're not saying things because they're attacking you. They're saying things because they love you and they care for you. They want the best for you, but they just don't know the information about your age group, or they might not know the information about who you are or how you live your life. And until they know that, until they understand that, which they might never will, you can't take this as personal. For me, it's like you sit there, and I kind of sit there, and I still do this till today. When my dad says something, I sit there and I just agree. I just nod my head. I'm like, yes, Dad, because I don't have to. If you put yourself in, if you let it affect you, then you're generally going to be the person that's going to get emotional. And when you get emotional, then it just goes out the window. Then the relationship goes out the window, and then obviously it's going to upset you. The second thing that I focused on was compromise, and I think I've learned the power of compromising. Like, my dad doesn't like me sitting at home with without, or my dad doesn't like me without my beard. My dad doesn't like me walking out the house with just a t-shirt and a blazer. He likes the idea that I've got a shirt and a suit and a blazer on. So he likes me to be wrapped up on all these things, like all these little small things that they might nudge you about. Hey, sometimes you just have to do it. Like, I come home and I wear Asian clothes. Why? Because that's what my parents want me to see. So I compromise on that level, because if you're in the same room, and especially if you go over to that person's house, that family person's house, you have to have that element of compromising, because you're in their environment. And you have to respect them, and regardless of what they say, or like sometimes you just have to kind of go out of your way to do something for someone. And that's what creates a more powerful relationship, when you do something that's personalized to that individual, or that's very personalized, that person really cares about. So that's my two or three things that I think that really focus on helping you build a better relationship with your siblings or your family members.
And so we could talk about the entire humanity being one giant family anyway, because we're somehow all
Mm-hmm.
related, whether you believe it in a sort of religious sense of like Adam and Eve and all the kind of like siblings from there on, or whether you believe it in like evolutionary sense, as in we became from monkeys and blah blah blah, and at some point there was some sort of like first human or whatever, and so on. So it's like we're all related, we're all family, and like people that we're doing business with. In fact, I had this like sort of contemplation that the best businesses, the most successful businesses in the world are family businesses. Why is that? Because, and I don't mean it in the sense of like the sort of classic family business, like I'm the dad and my next employee is my son or daughter and that kind of stuff. But like in management science, we talk about beyond, like a group of random people is known as a group. Those people that don't collaborate together. When the group starts collaborating together, they're a team. But when a team starts collaborating to such an extent that they're synergizing and really, really working together, they can be considered a family, yeah, like a functional family. At that point, you can say that that business has actually become a family business, right? Even if it's like a random bunch of individuals working together. And so therefore, like every successful business is a family business, right? That's the idea behind that.
Yeah,
And I'll write up like a blog.
I agree, and it's I agree, and it's the element of I talk about communities, and I talk about the importance of building a community around who you are. Literally, that's your family. It's not just about your the team of people that you work with. It's about the clients and the people that you serve or that you go out to help. They're your family, in other words. And for me, it's I've always said this in my
Come in.
it could be a very intimate community, then that you can still have a greater impact. It's like when people have this fear of networking or fear of sales. It's the same thing with that. It's like if you go out and they call it hunting in packs. In other words, they hunt. If you go out there with a few people that you consider as your family and you go to a networking event together, then you can actually be more productive and you can actually make a more use of your time at these events. Does that make sense? And that in other words it's a very powerful sort of philosophy to live by. If you focus on that's your family and you're going out there to serve and love them and do the best for them, then you'll get that in return.
Exactly, and it's like the other aspect about family as well, and sort of like when I first started, you know, thinking of this conversation with you and building deeper relationships. um, I wasn't necessarily thinking about the family concept, but it kind of just naturally went there. And it's like one of the aspects of family as a concept of family members is that, if you have a brother and a sister, or, father and mother and so on, you don't really like quote unquote get rid of them until they die. You don't like, you're quote unquote stuck to them. So you better reconcile with them in order to have the best quality life. Because let's say even if you're like a millionaire, billionaire, whatever, and you have everything you can ever imagine, and then your brother, sister, mom, dad, cousins like absolutely hate you, you could consider yourself as a failure because you've quote unquote won everything other than your own family situation. And if you're planning to get married and have your own children, and if they flip around and start hating on you, you then really feel that whole sense of like, oh man, I never got on with my dad or mom, and now my children are hating on me, and really I deserve that because I was never able to build a relationship with my dad and mom and so on. So it's like these things just perpetuate and repeat themselves, and a similar kind of thing works in business, etc., etc. Tell me what you're thinking.
What's coming to my head is the word that comes to my head is regret. And I think when you go and speak to people, especially when I speak to my family, when I speak to my brothers and sisters, the one thing the advice that they gave me was, you don't want to regret it when they've gone. And that's the most powerful thing ever. When you sit there and you really think about this, when they're gone, how are you gonna really feel? Are you really gonna be over the moon? Because that's a question. If you can dig deep enough to truthfully ask yourself, are you gonna be happy or are you gonna be upset?
Yeah.
And when you
So
spend that time alone, you realize it's like I've started everything I do is on the how I treat my siblings and my parents now is on the basis of, if they die tomorrow, what have I done to support them or love them in some way?
yeah,
And I
and
think
so
with that mindset, you're more likely to build a stronger relationship.
So let's flip then this whole thing into the business realm and building relationships, let's say via social media, and then into sales and repeat sales and all the kind of marketing and, as you said, community building, all that kind of stuff. What can you share with me and the rest of the people watching this on live and on demand, in terms of some of the kind of best practices and why this is a good idea to build deeper relationships with people?
I think the first thing that most people think about, and it's become a norm now, but how can I have the most likes? How can I have the most followers? How can I have the quantitative sort of approach to building my business? You know, but sometimes you would know this, rather than having clients at £100 and having 20 of those, you can have one client at £2,000, and that would do the job. So sometimes it's about a quality approach, and the same happens when it comes to social media. Rather than trying to build a bigger audience, focus on providing the most value to a smaller audience. Like, for example, I hit 5,000 people recently, but then I thought, okay, my relationships with these people aren't there anymore. So I either need to start deleting, and I need to focus on these relationships, or I go with the numbers game thing again, and that's when I lose the relationship with people. So what I started to do was, and this is a really powerful way, you might have seen me do this. I pick up the phone and I sit there and I say, um, I send him a personalized video message. And this is one of the
Yeah.
most underrated tactics in getting someone to engage and build a relationship with you that not many people preach or talk about. So when someone adds me as a friend and someone comments or likes on my status or engages with me in some shape or form, I send them that personalized video message. I say, hey, and I make sure they say their name. I say, thanks for connecting with me. I really appreciate it. Hopefully we'll catch up soon. In the meantime, have an amazing day. I haven't pitched my business. I haven't said anything that's salesy. I've just turned up to show them or express my concern for them and give them that time of day. Because in this world we live in, nobody's taking their time out for anybody, because everybody cares about themselves. So when you do that for someone, they're like, oh wow, this guy's amazing. Look, this is the best message that I've ever seen in some way. So when I do that for people, when I send that personalized video message, people open up and people want to have that conversation with me, and I can get them onto a phone conversation within the next couple of days.
Yeah, and I
So
did
that's
receive.
my sort of number one tip.
Yeah, I did receive that from you, and I really like it. Really, actually made me contemplate about this because let's say, back in the day, I remember writing handwritten letters. This is like back in the 90s. Probably you were like still, very very young, and
I was even born in
it
the
was like
90s.
we used to send each other post letters, right? And it wasn't a problem to kind of sit down and spend an hour writing a letter and then spending like whatever it was 10 20p on a postage stamp and putting it into envelope, going down to the post office, popping that letter in, writing the address, finding out address, phoning the person up, going like, what's your physical address so that I can send you a letter, all that kind of stuff. And doing that quite regularly. Nowadays, I can't record like a 10-second video message to say, hey Abdul, thanks very much for connecting. I really appreciate you. Let me know what you're doing. I want to know everything. I want to recommend some clients your way, right? And send that. It's like it costs absolute zero. It's like 10 seconds of work. It's immediate, and it's like people don't do that. Why? Because the truth is they don't care. They don't care about other people. And
100%.
and then they're sitting there like scratching their heads, going like, why haven't I got customers? If I had like £100,000 to run like an effective marketing campaign, Facebook ads, this and that, and it's like, no, you don't care. That's your first problem, and it's always going to be your biggest problem, because like your Tony Robbins, who is like a billionaire now, I think by now, it still sends like privatized voice note messages to his new connections, clients, all that kind of stuff, and it's just like sending intentions, casting intentions, all that kind of stuff. So like if Tony Robbins can do it, you must be able to do it, because if you're not able to do it for whatever reason, you really just are not ready for anything other than just be working on yourself.
And this doesn't just apply to Facebook or anything. If you look at all the other platforms, if you look at sales in general, you know what it is, whilst the world is is out there everybody's trying to approach him or pitch him. When you write something, like I've actually found out that one of a very experienced headhunter in London, they said that when they write personalized letters, direct mail, like the good old school way of doing things, to their clients, they have a higher conversion rate than cold calling. And it's the same with like LinkedIn as well. rather than taking your time out and copying and pasting messages or picking up the phone to someone, if you take other time to do your research, send a very personalized message, and just engage with them without talking about your product, you're more likely to get their attention and get them to engage back with you. But if you go
Yeah,
out there with an intention of selling, then it's not going to work. But if you go with the intention to, like you said, give a shit, then you're more likely to build a relationship. But it has to be
yeah,
authentic, and it has to be something that it's a mind switch as well. Like it's going from thinking like I need to get money to then switching to I just want to go out there and help that person, and then if I can go out there and do the best, then eventually I'll get something out of it.
yeah. And it's
But it's
like
like without any expectations at the same time as well. Like you can't have expectations when it comes to giving as well. When you give, you freely give, and when you give from that place, then and you don't expect anything back. You'll be surprised and you'll be happy, and it lightens you and it fires you up, and you when you do receive something back.
exactly, and it's like a practice that we can develop and nurture and strengthen. Uh, One where it's just like a constant opening of new relationships, and for the existing relationships, it's about deepening those existing relationships. You could probably look at it on, I don't know, whatever scale, 1 to 10, as in like how deep am I with this person in terms of fully understanding their context and what's going on, really connecting with them on both emotional, financial, spiritual levels, logical, strategic levels, all these kind of things, academically, and so on. Yeah.
And I've said the same about Facebook groups as well. People who are building Facebook groups or people who are doing any sort of organic social media marketing. And I've said this to them from the beginning. This isn't about you. The minute you make it about yourself, that post isn't gonna be of value to anybody, and you're not gonna get the engagement. It's like the idea that I don't know how where people's spiritual levels are on this live, but when people talk about the people pick up your energy before you even say a word. I believe that actually, when you're putting out that energy on social media, when you're sharing that energy on social media, people can figure out whether you're being selfish from the tone of your voice. People can, the how you write it makes a big difference on how you convert. That's why so many people have made money from just being able to write greatly and with such passion and such energy and making it not about them.
And so this is a very nuanced point. So I'd love to ask you a question here around um, this idea of like, because nowadays there's been so much talk about like content marketing, telling your narrative, um, all this kind of like personal branding, blah, 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 blah. And I think a lot of people are coming to that from very low levels of consciousness, which is about effectively self-aggrandizing, narcissistic um, egotism, let's say, yeah, and it's there's so many different flavors of it, but it's just like me, look at myself, either from like self-pity angle or from self-aggrandizing angle, which is like the reverse of self-pity, but it's like we know this attracts attention because of FOMO effect, and then um, and then really what
Let me
I
tell
believe,
let me
yeah,
mhm.
gone.
I was going to say, let me tell you the reason why people do that and why that doesn't work. Because the minute you go out there with a view to kind of get attention, that attention is only short term. We live in a world where attention is no longer that thing that you can keep for much long. So that attention is short term. That result may be short term. It's like when you have, when you try and do a whole ad campaign and you get millions of people to go into your email list or thousands of people to go into your email list. That's a great short number. But okay, let's look at the end result. How,
Yep.
how long does it take you to get from the 1,000 to the end result of sales? If you don't have, I'd rather speak to 25 people more specifically, more directly, and not post anything. I'd rather not post anything sometimes. I'm in that mode where I'd rather not post less, show more about what I'm doing, show the social proof, document my journey, as some people say, and then I'd rather spend time speaking to people directly and not trying to get people to say, come check out this, or come, we all do it after time. It's like an 80-20 rule. You have to 80% sort of giving and 20% asking. That's normal. But when you're constantly asking for things without giving anything, then what's the point? But
Yeah,
it's going
and
back to that point about attention, right? It's like people who try and go for attention only live short term. They don't last in the long run.
exactly, and I think it's kind of like this. It's all paradoxical, really, because on one level, you're instructed to live in the now and make the most of the now, and so on. And then what people end up interpreting that, and this is like spiritual bypassing, right? Where they go like, oh, all I have is now, therefore I should grab for myself as much as I can right now, instead of reversing that and going, no, I should give as much as I can right
Mm,
now. And that giving isn't about
yeah.
saying, going on social media and go like, I did this, I did that, look at me this, look at me that, look at me. Like, who fucking cares? Who fucking cares, man? Like, I don't care. Like, I don't care. Even you don't care. You're doing this to self-aggrandize, super narcissistic, egotistical bullshit. Nobody cares, right? It's short term.
It's like when you see those people who have like 1 million followers on social media and they've got fuck all engagement. Like you'll see certain people that like have 100,000 followers and they're like, oh, you've only got 400 comments. What? Yeah, sorry, that doesn't add up. So you've taken your time out to get you to that stage where you've got 20, 30, 40,000 followers, but then you're getting the same amount of engagement that I could get off 2,000 followers. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's people don't understand that people are trying to play short term. They're trying to look fancy on the outside, but then there's nothing concrete on the inside.
Yeah, it's just empty shells. And so there's the other thing around in social media specifically, and I'd love you to comment on this. We used to, I worked 10 years ago, I worked for the UK's most influential social media agency at the time. And we were like very strongly looking at all these kind of KPIs, measures, what it really means, what are the best practices for engaging in social media, and so on. And one of the big things was always around not chasing the vanity metrics, okay? Vanity metrics being things like views, likes, hearts, all that kind of stuff, or even comments and so on. Because really, especially comments nowadays where they come in and it's like a little heart or a little smiley, just the icon. A lot of that nowadays is just like bots and stuff that are kind of coded in a clever way. So you're thinking, oh, I got loads of comments, and it's like you never actually engage with a human being. You just engaged at 7, 8 bots, and it's making you feel like you're popular, but actually, literally nobody cares about you. So tell me about this notion of vanity metrics, and what do you sort of value in
I
social media in terms of
mm,
engagement for real?
I think it's about the follow up, and I think people don't understand that you can't just win on social media without having the sales approach to social media as well. So it has to be a balance of everything. Yes, sometimes you might need to get that attention, but then it depends what you do with that attention. So if you get that attention in the first place, but then interact with everyone in a personalized way, that's more powerful. It's good to get that number of likes and engagement because algorithms wise on Facebook, most people would know that according to algorithms, if you get more engagement, that means that they see your post more often when you post. The next time you post, they'll see your post just because they've engaged with you once or twice. So that's a good thing if you can get a level of engagement and if you can get all the likes and comments, but it's what you do with it. Like some people use that attention and then they just throw it away and they don't do anything with it. And I've seen so many people do this. So many people build personal brands to that stage where they get in attention, but then there's no engagement and then there's no relationship and then there's no sort of conversion for them. And so for me, I always believe it's a balance. You have to kind of pull from both extremes. At one side, you have to really try and get attention, but on the other side, you also need to personalize and get engaged as well. So use that attention, get engaged, and then convert. But most people aren't willing. Most people just get the attention because that's all they care about. But then if you care about the engagement as well as the intention, then you're more likely to build a more powerful personal brand in the long run. It's not a long-term game. Okay, most people are trying like, how can I get to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube? How can I get to this? But it doesn't matter because that will come in the time. If you build a more quality audience, the people will start to see. Social proof is there.
Yeah, and so there's a sort of balance there to be struck between getting attention up front and then converting that into sales, because some people are good at getting attention and not converting it sales. Some other people are good at like converting it to sales but not getting attention because they're like, I can do a lot of good stuff like as long as I get some people interested, but like people are not interested because you're not putting anything out there that's kind of catching their attention and so on. So it's
That's
another
that's why
battle.
that's why that's why salespeople, if they can, or any business owner or anyone that's selling a product can understand social media, they will be successful at business because they want. If every salesperson goes about branding themselves, if every business owner, entrepreneur, or coach or consultant brands themselves in a powerful way, but is also one heck of a salesperson, then they've struck the balance and they've got it right and they'll succeed. I can give you so many examples of people who do that. You'll have live stream Katya and Diana, and they're closers, they're hardcore salespeople, but they understand personal brand and social media, and that's why they win. And so that's what most people forget. You can be a great salesperson, but if you don't understand the power of personal branding and attention in today's digital age, then you're missing out on opportunities day after day.
All right, brother. So there's been no questions as such, so we'll just kind of I'll ask you a couple more and then we start wrapping up slowly. So you know,
hmm
how like which let's say in 2018, what are you predicting to be the biggest social media platform to develop deep engagement with people on, and why?
it depends on. Right now, I'm seeing based on Facebook and what they're playing right now. If I can't comment on the future because I never I never look at what the trends are in the future and what people might say. I just look at what's happening now and respond to that in the most effective way possible. So right now I'm saying Facebook's engagement is dropping for me. Facebook engagement is really dropping for me a lot, and I'm spending more time on building relationships within the group. So that's one idea. For me, the interesting thing is LinkedIn and Twitter are becoming super good. Twitter increasing the character limit to 240 or 280. I think it's creating an opportunity for people to spend more time engaging. I think Twitter is always an underrated one. People think Twitter is finished. I think if you spend less time posting and more time engaging, then you'll win. I think regardless of which platform you're on, if I think you spend more time engaging and less time, being someone that's just, that just posts and jumps off, then you're not going to win. But if you spend time engaging on every single platform, then you'll win, regardless of which platform it is. Like if I spend, right, algorithms make a difference, but I say, in my opinion, I think Facebook's right now not doing so well, so I'm spending more time and attention with my target audiences, where the 35, sort of 40 plus professionals that run corporate firms are on LinkedIn. So I'm spending more time there. Like every platform has a purpose for me. Facebook and Instagram, great for personal brand. LinkedIn, less for personal brand, more for sales, and more for like my target audience. Twitter, again, great for personal brand, but more spending more time on research and listening and seeing what's out there so I can respond to that intentionally. Every person has a potential strategy or goal for every platform. It's just deciding that you can't just say, "Oh, I'm going to triple down on one platform." Some people may say that. I personally don't agree with it because every platform has got its advantages. Every person has got that has its focus in terms of an audience. So you just need to tailor your content for the platform and for the audience. But most people don't do that. They just post the same thing from one to the other. So yeah, overall, I think yes, you might have to spend more time engaging because of algorithms change, but otherwise regardless of which platform you should be posting on. You should always be engaging in posting, but tailored to the audience.
All right, my brother. So tell us, just like for people who are watching on my profile, where can they reach out? I've obviously tagged you in this live stream, but where else can they find out more about you and groups that they need to join?
Yeah, so I've created a group called. I'm just going to type into the comments as well. I've created a group called Law of Appreciation, and just to give you guys a bit of an insight, very briefly, is that Law of Appreciation is all around, appreciating you as a person, as an entrepreneur, appreciating the people around you, so you can have a more powerful network, a more, a support network, in that words, and appreciating your community to go out to serve. That doesn't just apply to entrepreneurship, but it applies to personal branding and social media and etc. So I've created that group for that purpose, but also the purpose of having real conversations. If I can't be vulnerable to you, if you can't be vulnerable, then we can't really learn and grow. If I'm constantly going to try and put this facade on as to, oh, I'm this perfect business owner, then that's not what the group's about. The group's about trying to be real as possible and spending more time just having conversations. So you'll see less pitching and less thingy going on. There's not going to be really a product being created out of it, but more so I'm going to spend more time focusing on, okay, let's be real. Let's focus on how we can create balance in each part of our lives in some way, shape, or form. So yeah, I think that's where I think people can engage with me the most. If people just want to see my content, then they should like my page, Abdul Shakur, or Shakur at Shakur Global on Facebook. So that's the two places where they can find me right now.
All right, thank you so much, brother. And I invite everyone to check out Abdul's materials, and he posts quite a lot of video material all the time with amazing tips and insights and strategies on how to max out on the social media in proper way, in this deeper relationship way. So thank you all for watching live and on demand, and keep in touch. Bye bye, Abdul. Bye bye, everyone.
Pleasure. Take care. Speak to you soon, guys.